Welcome to the From My Experience podcast, where I have frank and open-hearted conversations with people sharing their embodied journeys and lived experiences, particularly within a South African context.
Now, hi Bianca. After we had a 20-minute
journey. It's been so long. Like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe we should start with actually who are you, what do you do, what's your thing?
That's a big question, babe. Who am I? I'm still trying to answer it. Yeah. So who am I? Yeah, I'm Bianca, and sure, that is a big question. Well, I'm based in Zurich. Been here for 2 years. Been a big life change, but a good one. And I keep myself busy with teaching yoga and doing energy work and soul massage. And now a new beautiful thing that I'm bringing to Zurich is Secret Sunrise, dancing. And that's where I'm at. I don't know where it's all going, but that's pretty much me in a little nutshell. Yeah, little nutshell.
Cool. Well, that was my whole thing was next thing I saw you were, I think the last time I saw you were in Cape Town.
Yes.
And, I visited you at your place. And, well, we obviously know each other through the yoga world.
Yes.
Well, when it was Helm of Yoga, right, with Kerry. And I think you...
Yeah, with Kerry.
Yeah, I think you actually taught some of the modules on my teacher training. So I think you did some stuff there.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and then I did some of your...
Long time, Jenny.
Classes, I know, hey? Yeah, so it has been a long... can't even remember when I did my teacher training. It must have been like 2011 or 20... somewhere there.
Yeah, it wasn't long after. I did mine in 2009. And then, I think it was probably about 18 months, 2 years after that, Kerry asked me to come and assist on teacher training.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we were in India together.
Oh, yeah.
Which was...
I forgot that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that was 2012. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was a year after I did my... Yeah. And then we went to Rishikesh.
Babe, what are we talking, like 12 years ago?
Yeah. So, and then the next thing I saw sort of through, like we were saying earlier, like when you kind of keep up with people on social media, you know what's happening in their lives, but you don't really know what's actually going on. You haven't spoken in like 4 years or whatever the case is, but you still know what's happening. So, and then you went like Zurich, and I was like, oh, okay. And my biggest question was like, why and how did you end up there?
Yeah, it's also it's one of the most frequent questions I get from people. It's like, why did you do that? And it is unfortunately a little bit of a story, so I'm going to try and package it for you. It all happened very quickly, and it seems to be like my life works in these beautiful kind of really like difficult situations that become gifts. Like that's literally what I've learned a lot of through life, is that I get given these really difficult kind of times and moments, and then there's just this amazing kind of magic on the other side. So it came through a difficult situation, which was I was in a relationship that I should never have been in, but we won't talk about that now. I wanted to get out of the relationship, and my partner at the time just really behaved in a really, really inappropriate way for me. And I was like, right, I'm done, I'm leaving. And I literally had to pack my bags like I was packing in a fire, because he was quite aggressive. And so I went back to the house, and I literally as I was packing, I was like, do I need this or don't I need this? Is it like a life and death thing? And that's how I packed. It was literally a yes and a no like that. And I ended up with 4 bags and my cat. And I went to a friend and I stayed at her for a weekend, for a weekend. And then I was sitting in this place of her home, which was beautiful. And I just looked at my cat, and it was like, his name was Alex. And I was like, Alex, my boy, you're such an amazing cat. Like, you just he'd adapted quickly, like literally within 24 hours, he was out and going into the garden and doing his thing. I said to him, you adapt so quickly. Like, you've lived in 10 years, you've lived in 9 homes. And it just hit me. Like, I was like, whoa, that's my life. I've moved, like every year I move. So it's like in South Africa, kind of rent is for a year and then moving on or whatever it is. I've moved my whole life pretty much, or in Cape Town. And so that was the first thing. And the second thing was, I looked at my bags and I was like, wow, this is what's really important to me. Like 4 bags I've packed, and literally this is important. So I was like, okay. But I had been doing a lot of shedding for the 2 years before that. And then I had this unbelievable amount of calm. And I was just like, why am I so calm? I've just literally had a breakup, left my house, with these few belongings. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm calm. And then I realized I wasn't like searching for other places online to find a new place to live. And it's like, that's weird. Why am I not panicking? And then I also, in Cape Town, I just felt this kind of a little bit of restlessness around my work and wanting to expand and kind of just explore something new. And then, honestly, Tony, it hit me just like a bolt of lightning. It was just like this, I'm moving to Switzerland. It was like I don't know if I said it or if the angel said it, but it was a moment, I remember. And I was like, wow, but hold on. I've always wanted to live in Switzerland, or at least overseas, like somewhere else that's not just, what I know of South Africa. And I have Swiss roots. So it was just so clear. And so I spoke to my brother and I spoke to my mom, not that I needed their permission. It was just, this is what's coming at me. And they were also supportive. And I made the decision in May, and I left in the 4th of July. And everything just opened up. It's just been the most incredible time. Yeah. So when you ask me why, it's like, well, I was directed.
Does it feel like it's something more higher than you, greater than you, deeper part of you, like divine?
When it came through, I was like, it was almost like I was honoring something that had been putting away for so long, and when that was like, yes, I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. It was like a yearning that I'd had for a very, very long time that I just thought would never, ever be possible. Or, I had my kids, and so they obviously go to school and be a mother, and build a business and all of that. And it just never seemed like I could do it. And it just was the right time. It was just the absolute right time for me to do it. Yeah.
And so why do you think Switzerland, like you say, what, you have Swiss roots? Is that family? Do you have family there? Did you have anyone there?
So firstly, we came to Switzerland quite often when I was a child. My dad brought us here on holidays, and I used to love being here. Just loved everything about it. Had very good childhood memories from being here. And my brother had moved a year before me, one of my brothers, and the other brother, I've got 5, the other brother was already living here for a while with his family. So, I mean, obviously that's amazing to have that landing, with family. And yeah, I wasn't afraid. I think that was the biggest thing. There was no like, it was just like, yeah, okay, let's go. It was just this, I'm going. Yeah. I mean, obviously it was sad to leave my children. That was a big decision to have to leave them. But it was just this unwavering knowing that I had to be here. Still trying to figure out why I have to be here, but I'm here.
But I guess, I mean, I think that's the big thing for lots of, I know for me, I've always had this like desire. I mean, mine's usually to go to like some like island place, hot and sunny and sea and ocean. I think because I've lived in Joburg my whole life, and I think I yearn for the ocean and I yearn for the coast. And yet there's this huge fear about like, how do I get there? How do I make that work? And I also feel like if I had someone on the other side to kind of
it does make it easier.
Landing or a little bit of a buffer or a little bit of support, knowing that you're going, because I've done also traveled overseas, moved my whole life for a partner, and had nothing other than that partner to hold on to on the other side. And then when things fell apart, I was just like, and it takes so long to also establish your life in a new place, find your niche, find your space, build up some friendships, have some support structure, find your tribes that you connect to. I mean, being older now, I think it's maybe easier in some ways because we already have some tribes that we maybe used to connecting, like a yoga tribe or a dancing tribe or I don't know, whatever your activities are, what your hobbies are. So that's always like a good place to start, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but like, I mean, I've been sitting with, and again, this is why your story interests me, because, for me, I have this yearning, like, I think just before COVID, not long, the year or two before COVID, I'd done a trip to Bali, and I was like, oh, I need to come here and do retreats and live here and move here and have a different life. And I'd been kind of planning that, and then got involved in a relationship, and that kind of derailed the whole thing, where I sacrificed my whole life for the relationship, or sacrificed my dream for the relationship, or conveniently used the relationship as a reason to succumb to my fears of making a big change. And I think for me too, big things, when big things happen and you push, you're forced. There's no other option but to take some new leap of faith, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, and I find myself in that position again. I'm now like 20 years. It's like I've come back into that cycle again. Like 20 years ago, I did a big jump, or 20 years ago, I did a big jump. And now it's like, okay, I feel that pull.
What are you feeling?
Yeah. That, I guess I had big dreams to also travel more and experience different things. And I don't know, maybe it's also that human yearning always for there's something better. There's got to be something better than this. So there's a lot of that, not being present with what is, and always thinking that there's something else is around the corner, and then 20
but I mean, you have mentioned that you love traveling, and Bali was like, there was something there, something that touched you. And I think that's what's, when I said to you, it was so clear, that yearning, that it was like an honoring of that yearning. It was something like, yes, this is what I've always wanted to do. I did not look like this, but when I feel just not into working out the how or even the why, it's just like, yes, this is something I want. This is something I really want to experience. My little soul wants to experience that. So, like you've mentioned, you love traveling and you've done it before, and there's like, and you've got this thing in your mind of maybe the ocean and the island and all of that. Like those are all like the whispers, they're the whispers that are always there. And you say you find yourself back here now because it's not going to go away. That's the other thing. It just gets louder and louder, or it just repeats until, I don't know, until something comes that we can honor it in some way, Yeah. So it's, I don't know how we pay more attention to it. And of course, it's difficult. It's not, I mean, a move is a huge thing. It's not for the faint-hearted, and it's not something to just go, oh, well, I feel like doing that now and I can go. But also what's beautiful, Tony, is like you said, the first time you did it, you gave up your dream, let's say, because of the relationship or whatever. and then it fell apart, and then you had to leave that dream or whatever. But just correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's sometimes when you don't have anything and you only have yourself, there's nothing that can be taken away. There's nothing that can be kind of, the only thing that you have to rely on is yourself, and you can build from there, and it's a clean canvas. You know what I mean? You can just do whatever you want to do because nobody actually knows you, you know?
Yeah.
That's also lovely, you know?
Yeah, I think it's probably also like a matter of perspective, I think. Or not perspective, how you choose to view or frame what it is that you're going through. I mean, definitely I'm now, obviously, as I'm approaching 50. Sounds so weird. I'm not bothered to say that or even to be there. It just feels like, I was saying this to a client this morning, actually. I was like, I see my mother as 50. My mother's still 50 and I'm still not 50.
And you don't feel 50. That's the thing. My body does not feel 50 and my brain does not feel 50.
Yeah, whatever the hell that's supposed to feel like, but still.
Exactly. But it just,
your childhood perception of what 50 was and old.
Yes.
Like it's almost like I still hold that vision, and I don't match that vision of what that is, you know. So it is like a whole reinvention, and you know, it feels like I notice the cycle now of life, as how I've been through the cycle before. Things arrived, and also like kind of just like your experience. Also, this happened to me in my late 20s, where things just, you know, happened. The reason I moved to Scotland when I first moved to another country, and also happened in that same way, where things just worked out. I was being retrenched from a job. I had been contemplating, a troublesome relationship, leaving a troublesome relationship. And then all of a sudden, I went overseas for a holiday, and then all of a sudden things opened up, and I ended up making a decision to go and live in Scotland with my new boyfriend. And my whole life just also felt, it was like, flashing signs, or universe going, do this.
Have to go there. Yeah.
Exactly. And then since then, and having gone through that, even though in that particular situation, the relationship also didn't work out really. I was too young, I think, for it to really work out the way into anything lasting. I was still sort of really finding myself. But now it's almost like I'm going through that cycle again, where I'm like, I feel I'm on the cusp of this next, or reliving that cycle, but maybe with a heightened awareness or a deeper internal understanding, or a more,
and your life experience, you know, of yourself as well, which is important.
Exactly. And also that like awareness of that, like actually the only person denying you or stopping you it's your own internal stuff, right?
Yeah.
So sort that stuff out. You can't blame it on anyone or anything else.
And do you need anyone else to, you know, make those decisions and to create what you want to create? You know, it's like, no, we don't. That lovely thing called free will.
Yeah, you mean that burden called freedom?
Free will and choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then where would you want to go if that's something that's in your energy field? Where is that?
Well, I have my plan now is to actually, I have a friend who lives in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is another like island paradise I want to go and visit. It's not obviously, again, because it's kind of, you know, Central America, but like quite still dollar oriented, right? So it's an expense. It can still be, there's some things that can obviously be cheap, but other things that can be really expensive. Like even there, you know, it's literally the other side of the world. So flying there is a huge expense because it's
you
know,
definitely.
So, you know, just getting there, you know, is the biggest hurdle. But I do have a friend there, you know, one of my oldest friends who's now recently moved there. You know, it wouldn't, not that even, you know, like, not that she would even have a place for me to sleep if I went there. I'd have to still financially, you know, like I'd have to support myself still to get there, even just to visit, to like recce it out, to, you know. But it gives me a reason as well, you know, like, or a, like an anchor, or again, like a little bit of a buffer or whatever for going, checking it out. And also, like you said, in seeing how you feel and like, what, you know, does it come to you like, right, this is actually where I want to be, or can I do something here? What can I do here? I think the biggest, that's always been the struggle for me. And although COVID really helped with pushing everyone online, so it does mean that you still have some way of doing what you do. You can still do some stuff online, but it does mean that, like, it's a big, how am I going to support myself if I decided to move to a completely different country, a completely different thing? How am I going to support myself doing that? Still doing my thing, but having the financial buffer or space to be able to reestablish my business in another place. And that's, I think that's what interests me, is like, how do you move to another country and afford it?
Create space. I mean, start creating, because you need money to create as well. It doesn't just like fall in your lap. Well, I to be transparent, I knew that well, firstly, I knew that I obviously can only do what I can do, which is teach yoga, do my massage, massage, yoga, and the energy work that I do. So, like, when I got here, I was like, okay, how am I going to enter into this world here? I had no idea what Zurich was like. I mean, obviously, I went online, checked out yoga studios and things like that, but actually, that was too overwhelming for me when I was making my move. You know, in those 2 months, I had so many other things to sort out. But so I was like, when I get there, then I'll do it when I get there. So, I mean, that's just me. You know, for other people, they need more surety. But I was just like, when I get there, it's fine. I had a little bit of money. But to be honest, I also knew that my dad had passed away a year before that. And I knew that we were getting some form of inheritance. So I had no idea what that was. I was just like, Dad, you can look after me now. That's great. And it's so interesting because it came through literally I think it was in the November. I arrived in the August because I went to the UK first. Then I came here in August. And I think it came to us in, I think it was October or November. And yeah, it was just, again, just such a beautiful gift. I mean, I had no idea how long that was going to take, but I was also starting to feel the pressure of like, I really need to find work, blah, blah, blah. And it came through while I was sitting in a German class, trying to learn German. I got the message from my other brother to say the money's in, send me your bank account details. I was like, yes, thank you, Dad. And it was so weird because I'm sitting in Switzerland, which is where he was born. And, you know, my dad, that's a whole nother story, but we were close, but not really that close. And there's a lot of healing around my dad. And I know he always, you know, loved bringing us to Switzerland, but there I was sitting in this German class, receiving from him, but in a different way, to be able to be here. And that was also my like answer, you know, it was also like another affirmation. But yeah, I mean, for me, when I got here, I also just knew that you know, Tony, it's also, again, just something, I don't know if I'm a weirdo, but I was just like, there's no ways I can introduce myself and people can get a sense of me from an email, you know. And I was just like, I'm going to have to do this the hard way and literally go and show myself. So I just chose a couple of studios that I'd seen online or that I thought, okay, might be in resonance. And I literally walked Zurich and I just went, not a lot. I think I saw maybe about 6 or 7 studios. I mean, there's so many here. I don't think you can get through all of them. And I walked into, you know, and I was starting to feel a little bit like, ew, like, I don't know if I'm going to find my little spotty here. And so I let that go a little bit. And I did send out a few emails. And And then two things happened. One was I was walking one day, just discovering Zurich, because clearly I wasn't working. So I had some time on my hands. And I was in a certain area, and while I was in that area, I had this like thing that came up. It was like, check if there's a yoga studio here. So I looked online, and I was like, oh, there's a little place here called Soul City. It's like, that's a cute little name. Like, and I walked down the thing, and it's not easy to find. It's like down a little alleyway around the corner. And I walked in, and there were two guys sitting inside, and I just said to them, is the studio owner here? And they said, no, she's gone for lunch. She'll be back now. So I just chatted to them. I said, I'll wait for 5 minutes if that needs be. And in walked Erica. And when she started speaking, I was like, you're not Swiss. So she said, no, I'm from Namibia. And it was just like, I was like, what? I'm like standing in the middle of Zurich in a yoga studio, which is run by a Namibian. That's that beautiful African spirit. And so, yeah, I just literally chatted to her. We were in and out of some chats together and some emails and stuff. And I literally started there in the next January, which has been the biggest gift, honestly, like the biggest gift. So, I know what you're saying. Like, obviously you want to get there and know that there's something, but I think it's more like just trusting that have to hand over some of that. But also I think I didn't even do a Reiki, because just the way that I was directed here. But if you're feeling that, like, just to go and do a Reiki and see if this is something, because I know there's a lot of yoga and all sorts of movement-based and transformational-based stuff going on in Costa Rica. I mean, it's alive with all of that. So yeah, that's what I did. And then the other thing that I did was, which has also been just such a gift, is my brother and I were on a walk one day, and we had to get on the bus to come back home. And we were quite 15, 20 minutes outside of Zurich, and we were on the bus, and this bus did like a turn past this like really fancy kind of building, and it said it was like a rehabilitation center or something. So I said to my brother, I said, what is that? He says, no, it's a very exclusive rehab center. And I don't know what it was called, but whatever. So I said, I'm sure they must need yoga teachers or like, energy work or something. And he's like, yeah, maybe have a look. So the first thing I did when I got back that evening was I literally just Googled, I don't even know what I Googled, like exclusive rehab centers in Switzerland. And the first place that came up was this place called Kusnacht Practice, which wasn't the one I saw. It's just the first thing that came up. And then I looked, and they're like looking for complementary therapists. So I was like, I'm a complementary therapist. Like ding, 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 ding. And off I sent and that was an email, but because that's very corporate, so they wouldn't just give you an interview, right? And I sent off like a covering letter and my CV, or my website, which is my CV. And it took a while. It took a few weeks for them to actually respond. And then they responded and said, we'd like to have an online meeting with you. And then she said to me, great, can you give me a massage? And then I was like, with pleasure. And that was it. I was hired literally a week later. So yeah, I think it's also like, and I realized that this whole transition, like this whole process, even now that it's been, August will be 2 years, the more I listen to that little voice, and the more I listen to those, even if they feel random, and even if they feel weird, and even if they feel, just quite out there, is to just go with them, because that's your intuition, and that whisper, which is why I spoke to you earlier about it, that whisper just doesn't really go away. But the more we listen to it, the more it's guiding us, because the mind just, fuck, man, we get in our way. We just gets in the way, it just gets in the way. It's like, no, this is here. I can feel this. It's something else. It's very difficult to describe,
And
so yeah,
for a lot of people, like even for myself, I think I'm an embodied, I'm practicing, I'm in my body doing body work. Just because I'm doing body work doesn't mean I'm actually in my body.
Listening. Yeah.
I realized that, in fact, in the last like year or two, where I was like, I keep talking about like, and helping people get into their bodies, and maybe I am, because I'm guiding them. Am I even practicing that, what I preach truly? Like, am I even really connecting to myself, or am I so busy helping other people connect to themselves that I'm actually not listening?
Yeah.
You've said that word, it's trust for yourself. I think sounds like you actually really trust your own, your process, your inner, that inner knowing, that intuition.
Yeah, that inner knowing and that guidance, it's guiding us all the time, like somebody once said to me, the soul is playful and wants to play. And, our minds are not really playful. We don't really engage in like playful thoughts. I mean, maybe some people more than others, but like, it's just, the soul's always going, come, let's go here. Come, let's go there. Come, let's do this. Let's do that. And it's never a heavy thing. It's never like, oh, you must go and like go into I mean, there are some things where we feel we need to do, but it's like just engaging with that, like that. Oh, that's interesting. Like, why am I feeling that? Why does that come up? And also just trusting it. And it's so interesting what you said now about the body work, like, because it is a thing, like we need to embody what we, who we are, and feel that. But it's like, and I think that the trick is like just trusting what we feel, like trusting what that message is, and honoring it, whether it's I need to move to an island, or whether it's actually, what, I need to get under my duvet and shut down for 3 hours. It's that like constant honoring of whatever soul's asking us to do, whatever we're being guided to do,
Yeah, I think sometimes actually my work is sometimes a distraction from myself. I can help someone. I think I'm very good at guiding other people into that place that I myself need. I'm just not as practiced as
that's why we teach it, babe.
There, exactly. You teach what you need. You teach what you need.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
it. You're good at delivering it because actually it's really what you need. You need for yourself, and
that means you have to change something.
Yeah.
So when we direct it back to ourselves, there's something that we have to kind of, because when you give it to somebody else, or maybe reflect it to someone else, it's kind of there, and it's beautiful, and it is knowledge, and it is wisdom, and it is all those things that we have learned through some form of experience. I mean, you wouldn't know that if you haven't actually felt that to some degree. Like, you have to have felt that to some degree, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to teach it. But it's more about like, maybe we just have to anchor more into that practice as opposed to just handing it out, I mean, I have the same thing. I promise you, Tony, I have the same thing in terms of like, there's times where I know what I teach in yoga, like, and when I speak to people after a massage, and I know what comes through and all those things. But the one thing is that is so just becoming more and more clear is that I need to remember that the love that I have for other people is the love that I have to give myself. As much as I give it to others, and I know what that feels like, to turn it towards myself and love myself and go, remember you, like, remember you have the answers, remember your stillness, remember your connection to yourself. It's like, it's, and as soon as I do that, I'm like, oh my God, why did I forget to do this? This is what I need. This is what I need. It's what I teach. This is what I need, actually. Yeah.
Which is, why I think I have to, also remember to go and attend someone else's classes. Also to be held by someone else. Sometimes you need that.
Oh, it's the best, babe. It's amazing.
The same with like massage. Every time I have a massage, I lie on the table for most of the massage going, I should be doing this every week. should be doing this every day. If I could afford to do this every day, I would do this every day. And then 6 months go by and I'm like, oh, maybe I actually need to have a massage and actually go in.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with the human condition. I mean, it's not just us. I mean, I think everybody struggles with that to some degree, you know, of just like really fine tuning that listening, you know, that intuitive listening. It's like, you know, and it's okay. It's okay to say, you know, I don't want to do that today, or I'm not feeling that today. I mean, if we're embodying it, then, you know, it's not going to be okay every day. You know, it's not going to be the same every day. It's not going to be the same practice or the same, you know, whatever. It's just listening, like, and even moment, like it's such a conscious awareness every day, every moment to go. I mean, this morning I actually did a bit of, I mean, I'm trying to do it more and more. It's like my days are pretty free at the moment. I'm not as busy with other work. And so that becomes, I've realized it's become such a beautiful practice ground, because when we're busy, like you have a schedule and you've got these appointments and off you go, ding, 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 ding. And by the end of the day, or maybe the end of the week, or maybe the end of the month, you realize, fuck, I need a massage, or why didn't I do this, or whatever. But when it's not so busy, like that's where kind of the magic is, to listen, you know? And so like this morning I woke up and I had a free day today. I mean, I'm teaching this evening, but my day is pretty much free. And I was like, I just woke up and I was like, and I knew today was free. So even last night, I was like, what am I going to do tomorrow? And I just woke up and I was going, you know what? I'm going to go with whatever feels good for me, to like in every little moment, because this is what I teach. I do this intuitive journey facilitation as well. So I'm like, okay, Bianca, you teach this, so let's do it. And I've had the most amazing day. And to be honest, I haven't really done much. I mean, it was just from one, I was like, oh, I feel like I just want to sit here and read my book. And I read my book and I was like, yeah, I've had enough of that. And I did have a meeting, just one online meeting with Erica for half an hour. And I was like, what do I want to do now? Yeah, now I'll have a shower. Okay, I'll have a shower. Yes, I like a shower. And then it was like, And then there was a random thought like, laundry. Shit, I've got to go and do the laundry. So I had to do my washing. But like, and then it was just like, you know, and then I was like, what do I want to do now? Actually, I want to see if there's some music I can use for Secret Sunrise. Let me start that. Okay, cool. Let's do that. And it was just like the whole day has been. That's why I said to you at 2:00, it's like, can we start at 2:45? Because I was busy. I was in something. I was just processing something. I was working through something. I was making, and it's like, I guess the luxury of having the time and to be able to sit in that and be able to listen is beautiful and a gift. But can we like harness and fine tune that in our everyday, you know?
And also then, not that I think we have to be productive, but I think for me, sometimes I get too easily stuck in, change this light. I get too easily.
Beautiful. The light is shining on you.
I get too easily stuck sometimes in apathy, and then I beat myself up for not having done anything productive.
What
worldly production. Yeah, but when I do actually, like, I think Sunday was a bit like that for me, actually. I love those Sundays when I also just like, when I get up, I'll decide what I'm doing when I get up. Don't want an alarm, don't want a schedule. You know, please don't ask me to go anywhere or see anyone. If I want to go, I would rather reach out than be asked. I don't know what that is that, you know, and then deciding in the moment what to do. And I actually ended up doing quite a lot of things on Sunday.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's exactly it. I mean, I've got a list of stuff, all the stuff that was downloading, and like I've gone into different like little rabbit holes of things that I'd forgotten. And I was just like, wow, this has all been sitting here, but I haven't given it the space, you know, the space to be heard and seen and come out. So it is productive, but just not in the way that we've been taught.
Yes, exactly. The way we've been taught. I think in a way it's a very different kind of, it's a much more feminine flow. It really is being in flow, which is a feminine consciousness.
Mm.
And then when you are allowing yourself to be in flow, things come. You seem to have when I'm doing that, all of a sudden time is my nemesis. Even when I'm trying to be on time, I'll be late, or something will crop up to make me late. But when I'm in flow, time is also, I think, a little bit more masculine in its structuredness. But in when I think I'm being a little bit more also, like you say, listening, a little bit more trusting, a little bit more, letting things come to me, then things flow. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, you'd finish reading your book, or you're like, okay, I've had enough of that now. Oh, and instead of it being 4 hours later, actually, it's only an hour later. So I've still got, like, I don't know, 3 hours of the morning to do something else, instead of like me going like, damn it, I've lost 4 hours and I just want to finish this chapter.
Yeah, and that it doesn't get contracted. The time doesn't get contracted. It seems to actually expand on some level.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think that's got to do with, I feel like that's got to do with being present. Because when we're present, like all the time, okay, what is it? What do I feel like doing now? What does my body want? Or what do I need? Or like where's the next like space I want to be in? Like, we're so present with the answer, we're so present with being like there, that time just, it definitely, it almost like allows us, whereas
Well,
when there's these structured things, it just doesn't seem to, then suddenly there's like a rush, or suddenly there's like a push, a force.
Yeah, I think that's been very very much the last like 7 or 8 years of my life, is this exploration into like, what is masculine energy, what's feminine, how do we work with that. I think there's been generally like quite a global
There has
movement through like, what is that, and this, like the patriarchy, but not to bash the patriarchy. It's just that it's actually just about us as women learning to come back into our flow and hold that sacred for ourselves. And what does that actually mean? And understand that we don't run the same way that men run. And the way that the world is still very much, or has been masculine, very much in that masculine energy, is that we don't run that way, and we need to
honor that.
Exactly, to flow in a more feminine way and to be feminine. I think that change is happening. It seems to be a lot more of that, like feminine awareness, or feminine energy consciousness movement seems to be coming much more into play in the last couple of years.
And we do have the rhythm. We do have that. We also need to honor, like, the cycles that we go through. And I mean, I know also it's interesting, because I've just remembered now, when I was living with my brother, and I obviously didn't have work to start, so I had a lot of time. What I also started realizing, because I had time and because I was a lot more quiet, was that even in a day we have rhythms. It's like, I could wake up some days where I had like next to no energy, or just needed to just do, maybe just read or whatever, and then honoring that, and then suddenly it's like, geez, actually I need to go for a walk. And then the walk was quite a brisk walk, and it was up a hill, and I was like, this feels good. So it's like it's always changing. Like, there's a rhythm, and there's a cycle, and there's seasons, and there's and we've just had to slot into this like way to do stuff, and we all have been programmed, all of us. I honestly, it's just like, it's so evident, because it's so difficult to let it go. It's so difficult to go and to say, I feel like I've done so much today, and somebody asks you, oh, well, were you at my friend Jerry was like, hey, you home? So I said, yeah, I'm home. I'm so happy to be at home. He's like, oh, I thought you'd be working. I know you like things are quiet. I'm like, I'm working in my own way.
Yeah, exactly.
And I am creating, and I'm creating. That's what I was doing today. I was in full creation mode, and that's powerful, actually. It's more powerful than going to do something mundane that you just have to do because I know we need to earn money, but God, hopefully that changes as well at some point, you know, in some way, let it change, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important, you know, and I think it's also just coming back to our innate knowing, especially as women, men as well. Men have a beautiful, beautiful inner knowing that they can tap into. But you know, as women, we know.
Mm.
We know.
Yeah. I think I'm just very trained at not trusting that. I don't trust my own intuition, my own inner feeling about certain things. I think very much I'm very well self-directed and in my workspace, because I'm proficient at it and I've practiced
Yeah.
it for a long time in my own.
What do you think? What do you think will help you to trust that? Like how? Yeah. What do you think would help you to trust that? Would facilitate you to trust that?
Well, the interesting thing is actually, you know, I've been in a relationship now for, well, it's been a little bit on and off, but like I would say for the past 7 years, a relationship has what would the word be? Been more prevalent in my life. Whereas prior to that, I was single for a very long time. So I was very much on my own. And, you know, this relationship, and no relationship's easy, I get that, but this relationship really pushed me to look at those things, to really, because there's a lot of mirroring. There's a lot of, I'm now really faced with the like masculine in its full force and in its
dominance.
I would say sometimes in its destructive aspect. I'm not saying, you know, I don't have a abusive partner or anything like that. I just think I get to see that in him very much his his masculine, not always at its best for himself.
That maybe the shadow side of the masculine. Yeah.
And then he's so in that shadow side of the masculine, or having to, you know, live by the rules and the black and the white and the structure and all the rest, but so much that it is constricting for him, and I think kind of like killing him slowly.
Yeah.
Which I think he senses as well, but I think also feels a little bit stuck in terms of where to go and how to break free of that, you know, the constraints of life and finances and living and surviving, what have you. And what that's done is obviously really like made me face that destructive shadow masculine in me. And how and then the shadow feminine as well, like also where I'm in my destructive feminine cycle and have kind of been there for quite some time, and now like that drive, it's driving me, it's pushed me to want to embrace the more constructive, the more just give and surrender, all those qualities,
surrendering
of actually my truer self, that more feminine energy, the energy that's much more my innate is what I would say, the more the truth. And so how do I see that? Can I see that? Can I even bear to see that when I have been I've been on the converse of it, and so familiar and accustomed to it, that it feels quite scary to go into the opposite, which is why I think like your story and people who I'm obviously attracted to those stories and think, oh, I want to speak to that person.
There's a resonance. Yeah.
There's something there. I'm like, oh, what's that? And it is obviously also mirroring that, like you say, that soul whisper that's coming to me, that I'm kind of denying. Yeah, but that's not the familiar, and how am I going to pay my bills and survive, you know? So I keep pulling.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, you know, there's something that I heard once, which also just was so powerful. Is that women, the difference between men and women is that a man can kill someone with his bare hands if he wants to, and women can't. I mean, obviously, if you train to, you can, but innately, like we're not built to, and it's not, we wouldn't really know what to do. Whereas a man has strength and power and probably more adrenaline and all those things. He is built for that, right? And women aren't. And so we walk around and have for millennia not feeling safe. Never mind if you're in a relationship or not. Just walking onto the street, as and I'm not saying we need to take this around with us everywhere, but this is also ancestral. It's from way, way back that unconsciously we know that a man can kill us at any time because they have the strength, and so it's that like such a deep I wouldn't say it's a wound, but it's just this a deep kind of awareness of, am I safe? Am I safe to surrender? Like, am I safe to actually just fall into whatever it is that I can fall into, and to fall into the masculine, whether it's a partner, whether it's the masculine of the world, whether it's a friend, whether it's, I don't know, and that's not there yet. We're not there yet at all, unless you have a partner that can hold that space for you to, because essentially the masculine is there to allow a woman to surrender so that she can create, because that's what we do. We are creators. We are the co-creators, should I say? But that's what needs to happen. The more we can relax and the more we can be soft, the more we'll be able to access this beautiful whisper or the answerings or the intuition that we have, is the more relaxed we feel. And if you're holding yourself in your masculine and the masculine's going, you need to hustle, you need to do, you need to, you never get to relax, you never get to soften and listen, So that's why I asked you, what would you need? What would facilitate you to feel, or what would facilitate you to honor your intuition, or to strengthen that connection to your intuition?
Well, it's exactly that. It's having the right kind of having the right kind of container to actually to feel
do that in.
Yeah. So it does take a sort of a strong man, and I don't mean strong as in always just physically strong, but like someone who is strengthened in themselves as well to really be able to hold that space for you.
And he'll take the lead in that, and go, hey, listen, you're in your masculine. Come, rest here, put your head in my lap. I'm talking metaphysically, and relax and let yourself surrender and see what comes up, and wherever that goes, go with it. Like, I'm here, I'm supporting you to go and create. But we can also do that. I think it's important to do that within ourselves,
And I think that is the lesson, but how to when are you, again, like, I think for me, when I'm in constructiveness,
positive, like a good,
and
good
then
space.
also so that the constructive feminine can also play its place. That's been a big focus of what I think I've been working through in the last few years, is that, like, how do I use my masculine constructively, because I do still have to also still provide for myself and still make my way in the world and what have you, but also then allow that space that I can also be in the creative flow of things.
And the thing is, again, we've just been it's unfortunate. I mean, we are where we are, but in this world as women, we've just had to do that. I mean, somebody asked me a question the other day. He said to me, how would it feel for you to not have to worry about where your income comes from? How would it feel for you to be held by the masculine, so that you can actually, and of course you can make your own money. He's not saying you can't make your money, but that it's not that, because that's the masculine that we're in, that it's not at the front of your mind all the time, that I have to provide.
Mm.
Because we don't. The feminine isn't the provider. The feminine is the nurturer and the nourishing, but we're not the provider. The man is the provider. The masculine is the provider, you know? And I just said to him, fuck, that feels amazing. Feels amazing, you know? And I know I would make money anyway, but it's coming from a different place.
Yeah,
You
completely.
know? It's just coming from a different, like, yeah, creative, flowing, soft, yes, you know?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, very much I've seen this with a friend of mine. And also, you know, growing up, I think there was a lot of that very, you know, that like 80s, 90s energy, which is when I think a lot of that was like, whoa, power women, power women in the workplace, feminism / like, you know, power suits, power women, whatever.
Jane Fonda's.
Yeah. And then I was all about like, I don't need a man. I'm never going to get married. And little did I know that like that became that became my reality, you know. And now I'm going like, actually, I do really, and I suppose in this day and age with all this like this gender stuff that's happening, like I'm even more and more not convinced but come back to that. I think that's what men and masculine energy is for. They are to be providers and containers, and we are meant to be in our flow, which again, like you said, doesn't mean that we don't necessarily bring in an income, but that shouldn't be the
driving force.
The driving force, yes, you know.
No.
And when I was younger, I used to view my mom as very weak because she was a housewife. And, you know, and I saw my dad as like, you know, I think I probably as a young girl idolized him. He was my hero, you know, but I also then over-identified with that and then became more of that in that destructive phase. And, but now I'm almost at the point where I'm like, I actually need a man to come and provide for me. Not because I'm going to sit back and be a lady of leisure.
No, not at all.
I also wouldn't not bring in money or, you know, to be productive and have a purpose in my life. I still want to do all of those things, but certainly to not have that burden of being the provider, and because there is a space to be the provider and be the director.
Can't do both.
Be the independent woman. Exactly. If I don't have, I can't be the creator, softer, nurturing woman, you know. And that, you know, it shows up quite clearly in my relationship as well. You know, he's like, just let me take care of you. I'm like, okay, but then you have to really take care of me. You know, you can't say let me and want me to be all soft and feminine when you don't actually like hold that space, you know. So it's
but maybe just baby steps, you know. Okay, so how do you want me to how do I want to be taken care of? Or maybe he can ask you, what do you need? You know, what do you need to feel like you are being taken care of? I just want to go back with you said about your mom and your dad, like, you know, your mom was a housewife, and, you know, even then, even though, yes, it was still like the men were at work and a lot of the women were at home, I suppose that generation. But the difference is that they weren't being encouraged. The women even still weren't being encouraged to express themselves and to be able to do what they wanted to do. So they ended up just being, housewives or whatever. So that, you know, it's different. I mean, that's almost, they were suppressed on some level. Like if you were a housewife, but you also wanted to, I don't know, if I can paint mandalas, like it, and I don't know, do whatever with that. It was seen as like, no, you're supposed to just be at home. Like that is your, you know, place. We had to be in a place. Yeah. So that's also like, it's also masculine, feminine, gone a bit off alignment, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's, and I also think it was Teal Swan. She said something the other day about no single woman is happy running the show, something like that. And I was like, wow, that's quite a statement to make. But I think she's onto something. You know, because the boss babes, as they are, you know, are hustling like there's no tomorrow, and so disconnected from their feminine, you know, And then there's kind of us in the middle trying to do both, you know. And then there's the other side, which is maybe not doing, really being in their feminine, but not earning anything, so they fucked. You know, it's like
No, autonomy, yeah. Where I saw a lot of my friends go through that as well, and then going through also like divorces or what have you, and being completely like fucked because they don't have their own resources, they don't have anything, a car in their name, or a, you know, an asset or anything that they can use to rely on, or even have had the opportunity to explore themselves in their own, like you say, creative endeavors or purpose, you know, purpose outside of the restrictive nurturer, you know, mother, wife, clean the house.
That's it. You don't create, you can't, like,
you created children, that's what
that's it. Exactly. Listen, I tell you, the more, I mean, I felt this for a long time. I've always been a bit more of a man advocate than a woman. So the woman's, I mean, we both have our shadow and our stuff to do, but like, I've just like the men in the world that I know that are really good men, I'm speaking to them. I'm just saying to them, listen here, you need to pull the men together and start asking these men to rise the fuck up. Really, because we need it. We as women, I mean, we can't do this on our own. And we're at war. Literally, we're at war with either each other or the world or in us inner wars, you know. And it's like, we need men. We need men that can hold the space, that can call us on our shit, that can provide, that can allow for the feminine to relax, to finally relax, you know, and so that we can create. But we need the men. We can't go ahead and forge into the war as women. We can't. We're not designed to do that, you know. The men are. But it just takes courage. And like, I mean, I've just said to two really beautiful men that I know in my life, and I've just said to them, you need to go and fetch them, get and fetch these men, because we need them, you know. But they've also been suppressed. They also all have been suppressed on many, many levels, you know. So
it's difficult. I mean, it's a hard place to work from. I think lots of wounding on both sides. But but
you know, babe, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all human beings, and we all are having this experience, this earthly experience with souls that want to play, and souls that want to create, and souls that want to provide, and like, and so we just have to remember, like, we're all just human beings having an experience, and out there, whew, it's chaos.
Isn't it? I have to make sure that I haven't followed the news for a long time. I get my news.
No, I don't.
I get my news through podcasts. What are other people talking about? Other people can follow the whatever, you know, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, whatever, like all of that stuff. I'm just like, I don't have capacity for that. The war in me is taking too much
exactly.
Manage that.
And it's also like, it's, you know, you know, thank goodness there are so many beautiful, unique human beings on the planet. You know, if we all had to stop and just focus on the war, well, nothing else would get done, right? So it's also like, I'm not using that as an excuse to justify, but it's also like, there are people that will go in and you know, activate things and do things. And yes, maybe it's not looking like it's happening, but it is happening, you know. And so for me to sit here and watch the screen and look at all these awful things that are going on in the world, and I can just feel my whole little self just go into this thing. But that's not who I am. I'm not here to go into a little tiny ball because there's stuff going on around me. No, I need to do what I can do now with what I have and bring that. So that's what I'm going to focus on. I ain't focusing on something that makes me feel so tiny and so helpless, you know. I mean, that's just a no-no. But it's there are things we have to also trust that people are doing what they the people that will do something,
Mm.
you know? And there's also people that don't want to do what we're doing, and we're doing it. It's okay, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
I actually didn't think about it from that point of view. I suppose because I feel like there's just more and more, so many more people teaching yoga and studios popping up, and people teaching.
That's hectic, babe. I
movements
mean, yoga is just like, if I reflect back on like my journey with yoga, and it's like, when I started teaching, it was around, but it wasn't like, and I remember I had to hold back some things in terms of speaking, like saying the word soul, before freaking COVID was a little bit of like, you could say it some places, other places. Now, oh my God, you got soul mentors, soul freaking entrepreneurs, soul whatever, and it's just like, and yoga is just everywhere. It's like everywhere.
and in every form, or
Yeah, and it's being used. It's being used for so many things. Like it's just, yeah, I don't know. My relationship to it is also, I have my own relationship to yoga, and that's changed a lot over the years. And so now I just bring that because, yeah, it's and you know what, it's a good thing that there's so much of it. It is a good thing. I mean, it does facilitate something in people that awakens.
well, I was listening to something the other day, and they were basically saying, actually, I think I was listening to like a Chris Willick's podcast or whatever, and he was talking a lot about also, this thing about there are also like thousands of podcasts that have popped up all over the show now.
Yeah.
That you still are, instead of trying to be unique or trying to be niche or trying to find what your niche is, because that drove me mad for a while as well. I was just like, what am
No,
I
you
offering
can't,
that's
babe.
different from someone else, and blah, blah, blah.
Trap.
And in the end, you aren't offering something different. You're offering you. You're offering,
Exactly.
you are different because you have only your,
Way of doing it.
yes, and the things that have
Yeah.
influenced your life, and no one other person has got exactly the same influences,
Way of doing it.
experiences, and
Yeah.
exactly delivery method, and blah, blah, blah. So you are already niche instead of trying to find something, the next big thing to make millions from. I mean, like, look, I take my hat off to the people who are doing stuff like that. But
That's
again,
because they can, babe. That's because that's their soul's journey. Like their soul wants to express in a much bigger way, and a much more, I don't know, just new way, whatever that is. That's okay. Like we need those people.
but even then, I like realized, like sometimes that's what you perceive from the outside, and that may not be what's actually happening, really. I mean, obviously, big influences and big people are obviously big people because you see them everywhere, and there's,
Yeah.
you might see them teaching a class with like 50 people in them or whatever, or whatever the story is. But
And
not everybody's like that, even like a lot of my peers,
Yeah.
when I actually start talking to them, they're like, well, it's been such a shit year. It's been really quiet. It's, really struggling to get, don't know what to do to push things. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I take solace purely in the fact that I'm not the only, it's not great for any of us, right? If we struggle.
No, it's not easy for anybody, even the ones that look like they're doing big things. Let me tell you, sleeping at night, there's plenty going on when the lights shut down and you have to be with yourself. There's plenty. I mean, that's stress. That's so much stress. It's like, yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I also get caught into that kind of rabbit hole. Like if I'm on Instagram and I see people doing stuff, I get quite inspired. My problem is I get inspired, and then like I'm like, oh, that's such a cool idea, and I do follow rabbit holes. Like I like to follow that, and then I'm like, what are you doing? This is way too much effort for the capacity that you. Okay, that's not going to work. So I do like that it inspires me, but I'm very acutely aware of whether it's the right thing for me. Like, is this going to take way more energy than I can? This Secret Sunrise thing. Have you been to a Secret Sunrise? I'm sure you have.
I have like pre-COVID, so it always feels like a lifetime ago.
Okay.
I did one session then, and I haven't actually since. And yeah.
Oh, they're so much fun. Anyway, that's just me. I love them. So the beautiful thing about Secret Sunrise, and it's just something that I carry with me. I mean, there's one thing of listening. Yes, of course, listening to our intuition and what we need and what needs to be honored. But, they speak to this, what brings you joy? Like, and what joy feels like. I mean, let's hope I guess we have to establish that, like, what does joy mean to you? But it's like, if I'm just going back to, like, if I see something that inspires me and I kind of go down that rabbit hole, and then I can ask myself that question, is this bringing me joy? And it's like, no, okay, I don't have to do it. It's as simple as that. I mean, they go down to, like, part of I'm on their, like, admin, I'm doing comms for them and stuff. And basically on the on the agreements, they've got agreements around, who's working in the spaces and whatever. And one of the agreements is, when we schedule a meeting, if you don't want to be at the meeting, you don't have to be. We don't want you there if you don't want to be there. If it doesn't bring you joy, don't come to the meeting. Rather come to the next one when it does bring you joy. I was like, wow, imagine that. Imagine giving people that space.
Yeah.
In a corporation, they're not a corporation, but I'm just talking about in a container of workspace. Yeah,
exactly. Is Secret Sunrise like a franchise? Are they kind of like
franchise? If you can, it used to be more like a franchise thing. Now what they're doing is they've changed the structure, and Jerry and I got involved just right at the timing has been perfect. And it's like, if you want to bring Secret Sunrise to your city or your area, then you can, and you just have to do the level 1 facilitators training, which is probably one of the most amazing weeks I've had in a very long time. And then you can, what they call, ignite your city. You can go in and bring it to your city. But if you wanted to do it, you do the facilitators training, and then you'll get in contact with the people in Joburg, and then you kind of all work together if you need to, or if you move to Costa Rica, you can take it to Costa Rica or whatever. Yeah. It's really, really cool because it's facilitated, but also the music is just, for me, the best. And it's actually a healing modality. That's what Jerry and I discovered after our week of facilitator training. There's healing that happens in those circles. People don't know it, but there is. So it's so beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah, 100%.
I did it so long ago, and I've only had one session, and I haven't done so again. I haven't heard a lot about it in Joburg. I mean, I see the Cape Town stuff.
Yeah, I think Joburg's pretty active. They, if you go onto their Instagram page to have a look, I'm sure it's Secret Sunrise Joburg. They're pretty active. Yeah. So these things that we have to do, like, if it's not bringing you joy anymore, maybe it needs to be reevaluated.
Sure. I actually went to a friend of mine. It's quite interesting sometimes to see the, like, synchronicities. I keep saying to the universe, I'm like, okay, if the world is so synchronistic, if there's so many synchronistic, thank you, then okay, I'm open to it. Now show me some synchronicity so that I can actually, like, believe in it, because I'm like, I don't know if I see anything. But it turned out I went to friends who are staying in a place in near Hinops, so out in a sort of rural community plot or what have you, with some houses on right next to the Hinops River, so very much like sort of big trees and foresty and water, and, like, and they were kind of living that very sort of, simple tribe, trying to get off the grid, grow your own food, that kind of thing.
My God, take me there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, me too. I'd also like that, as long as we're just, like, at the foot of a mountain and right next to the ocean, then I'd be in my life.
Costa Rica sounds good.
Exactly. Out of all the things that I want in one meeting, in one space, which is pretty much what my dream is, my vision is, really.
You can have it all, babe.
Yeah. But still to be, like, connected and still have access to sort of, like, cities,
humans,
vibrancy, exactly, and that kind of thing, where was I going with this? Oh, yes. And so it turned out that my ex-neighbors, they used to live next door to me in this complex. And I saw her posting something on Instagram or whatever. And I think it was, they were growing stuff in tunnels, like in greenhouse tunnels, whatever. And I was like, oh, what are you doing there? Like, I'd really like to, like, what are you doing? Where's your life now? And she was like, oh, no, we've moved to Henops and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we went up there. I went there with my boyfriend last night, and they were like, oh, we're just having a full moon gathering, and we're drumming under the moon and just like chilling and chatting, and did a little fire ceremony and did a little blah, blah, blah. And right next to the water. And I was like, and as I walked in, someone who I'd done a course with about maybe a year and a half ago, 18 months ago, is there now, their current sort of flatmate or housemate or community tribe member person or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I actually know you. And actually I've been to this particular plot before, when I didn't even realize that I had been there before. And I was like, oh, okay, so there are some synchronicities that are showing up in my world.
You know what, babe?
I need to pay attention.
There's so many going on around us. Like it's all over the place. It's like, for me, I must be honest, like synchronicity, I've never ever, I don't know why, I don't know, maybe this is just, I don't know from where it comes, I don't know, but I've never believed in coincidence. I've always believed in synchronicity. Like they're not the same for me.
Yeah.
Coincidence, it doesn't, it's not, I mean, I get coincidence, I understand, like, but for me, it's like synchronicity is just, it's universal, it's everywhere. And I see it, it happens to me. The more you see it, the more you see it.
Exactly.
Yeah, honestly. And then it gets fucking scary. Then it's just like, what the actual fuck is going on here? Like, but it's so cool,
You think it's a power, it's a consciousness almost, as opposed to, I think, like coincidence is just it is a happenstance. And I do think there's like happenstances which are kind of almost in some ways inconsequential, I think.
Yeah, maybe
kind of
that's
what it feels like. Whereas synchronicity feels like it's actually much more, I don't know.
But also with synchronicity, when we start seeing them, for me, it brings about a sense of absolute awe as to what's actually happening. Like, it's what are the chances? Like, if just think about it, like, what are the freaking chances that you bump into somebody that, you haven't seen forever at this random place, that you just decide to go to, and you have this lovely reconnection. Like, do you know all the things that had to happen for that to take place?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was exactly what last night was. Yeah, for me. And then I was standing there, and I was playing with someone had given me one of those, those shimmy, the belly dancer shimmy ties that you tie around your waist with all the jingly things on. She'd given that to me, and I'd like I'd been, like jumping around the fire with that on, and I'd undone the knots, and I was just using it like a shawl or whatever. And I realized after a while, I was like, oh, it's like when you watch a little girl. I had that maybe even like be able to see myself a little bit outside of myself for a moment. I was like, oh, it's like when you watch a little girl and she's like singing to herself, and she's
her own world,
and she's having a little like moment, whatever, and she could do it for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, and you're just like, what is she doing? And she's just being, actually.
Yeah.
She's being, like you say, completely like sort of engaged in the present moment. Her mind's not there. She's not trying to do anything particularly or be anything particularly or trying to achieve. There's no achievement there. It's just like sort of just sitting in and I realized I was doing that. I was just kind of looking at my little shimmy things and I was like, oh, I've been doing this for a while. I was like, but I don't have to stop. I was like, oh, look at the mind. Look at the mind trying to do something with it. What am I doing now? Why am I doing this? What should I be doing?
Trying to question it. Yeah.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah.
Trying to question it, trying to justify it, and trying to figure out what it is. Like, that's it in our own way. Yeah. That's such a beautiful insight, into like the little girl. I mean, yeah, when you watch children, I mean, children are our greatest teachers, I swear. You watch children and they just, I mean, I can know my son used to go down to the ocean, and he used to just, if he found himself like a stick, and I would look at him and go, I think he's just getting out some anger. But he would just take the stick and he would just like dig, and then he would like swing it around, and he'd talk to the ocean, and then he would like jump, and then he would in his own world, like, and I used to watch him go, what is going on over there? And for him, he was just being. It was just being with himself, being with it all in the moment. Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful.
Yeah, we don't even recognize it. Like, we don't even recognize it sometimes when we see it in someone. Like, we then also become the like, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? There must be a reason. What's that for? La, 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 la. Instead of also just recognizing that that's actually just presence, real presence.
Real presence and real being, you know? But our minds just question everything. And that's, I'm just going to go quickly back to it. Secret Sunrise touches on that. It touches on, okay, obviously there's music, but I mean, even last night around the fire, I'm sure there was music. Was there music?
That's why that's what made me think of it. I'm like, I was in my own secret sunrise or moonrise.
Yes, secret fireside. Yeah. But when the music's on, you can, you just get to that, you go to that place, just that place of just being and an expression. That's what it is. It's being and an expression of you, basically, so yeah, it's very powerful, very, very powerful. And maybe that's what we need to just remember, and to unlearn all this mental shit. I mean, the more experiences that I have with, and it's also, there's a lot going on, like energetically, even consciousness, like it's like we are being asked to freaking get rid of this last freaking layer, and it's really letting go of the parts that we think we need. And the more that I tap into that and realize, it's just like, I mean, what do we need all this other stuff for? What do we need all these thoughts for? What do we like? What? Why?
Yeah. In fact, actually, that brings up an interesting thing for me. I like, whenever I start getting really antsy and I need to clean my house or clean out a cupboard or get rid of the 15 candle holders that I have.
Yeah.
They're like, I mean, I love to have lots of candles on, but do I need 15 of them all on the dining table at the same time? Like, kind of thing, like I have this intense need to get rid of stuff. And I realize it is the outer reflection of the inner. Actually, what you're really trying to do is to clear that.
Yeah, out inside. Yeah. Sometimes you have to move that as well. Like sometimes you have to move that expression, it's like, and then when you see it, it's like, oh, it's inside as well. And that's okay. Like I think the external world is also there for as like a little like mirror, like Absolutely. That's cool. Okay, I see it. I have to now go inside and do it. We came here, my friend, for this time.
And, I also think, interestingly enough, you say that shedding of stuff, and like I use this hashtag actually on some of my posts. I'm so bad with all the social media stuff, but on some of my posts I use embracing half a century, because I really am trying to embrace that. And I think coming into like this like 50s and really understanding, seeing my life now with like time and experience, and being able to see that there's been a cycle and see that we're, what's valuable, and actually being more at peace with, or at least maybe I'm not quite at peace, but I am embracing the experience of being in this,
accepting,
yes, and in this time, and in this current flow of consciousness or awareness, or that, or embracing that, or being a bit more open to what it's actually like bringing and what you're shedding. Actually, the shedding is the
Yeah.
key.
And also, babe, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, you started with this question, which is so interesting. We've done like a full circle. You said, just introduce yourself, who you are. And I said to you, who am I? And I keep coming back to that. It's like, actually, who am I? Because, yeah, you as well, we're coming to our 50. Like, we've had this extraordinary life, because it doesn't matter what's happened in your life, it's extraordinary. Life is extraordinary. So we've had this amazing life because it's taught us so much, and it's molded us to some degree right here and right now. This is why we are here and why we're having the conversation we're having. But I'm still questioning, like, if I've changed so much over the last 50 years, or so much has evolved within me and shed and also anchored and all those things, like, am I truly at my essence? Like, who am I? Like, if I'm not a yoga teacher and I'm not a massage therapist and I'm not, a mother and I'm not all those things, like, what is that? What is that wants to express, And it's like, fuck. And I know that there's parts of me, I don't know about you, but I know there's parts of me I hold back on. I know there is. And I'm like, okay, I think it's going to happen quite soon. I don't know what it's going to look like, but there are parts of me that I hold back, and I'm like, I'm very aware of that. And now it's like, fuck, I think we might be there, Bianca. I think we need to reveal that. Oh my God. But yeah, and also being more accepting. Also, like, I think what you were saying about like embracing that is like, I'm just going to maybe mirror this for you, because it's something I've had to really, really, it's only been in like the last, I would even say 6 months to a year of going, you know what? I fucking know what I know is because I've experienced it. And I need to honor that and actually step into the power of that, because it's beautiful. It's wisdom. And I know that I have gifts to give people, and I only got them through experience. I didn't get them through a book or learning about it or anything. It's because I've physically experienced it on this planet. Yeah. So for you too, babe, like,
Yeah.
and that's the, like, not questioning ourselves and not like, oh, should I, shouldn't I, am I ready? Should I, imposter syndrome, all those things. Like, no, we're 50. We've fucking done this work. It's like, and wait, sorry, one more thing that's just come through is that, I don't know about you, but I respect and also am seeking out to be at the feet of elder, wise women. Like, yeah, like the women that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s. I want that around me, because these women are so wise and so I'm not talking about women that have obviously also just done their work, but they're elders. They're the elders of the earth at the moment. And baby shoes, we are the next generation.
Right, I know. When I started doing a lot of this sort of feminine work and what have you, and I was doing Janaki, don't you? Do you know Janaki's?
Yes,
she do
long curly hair.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, she does what's now called the She Academy, and she does all this like women's cyclical work and stuff like that. And I started doing stuff with her, red tent gatherings and all the rest with that. And I was just like, also, I realized all of a sudden, I was like, where's this yearning? I mean, I'm lucky I have my mom still as well that I can use for support. But I was like, where are all these other women who have lived different lives, especially someone who's maybe resonates a bit for me, like someone like the women who have not had children. I haven't had children. I haven't gone through that. I've never been married.
There's many elders that haven't had children because it wasn't their path.
Yeah. Because for a long time that was the thing, right? Those were the things that a woman did. You might have still gotten an education and gotten your degree and worked in a business and blah blah blah, but you also still had children and you were married. There was a lot of that around that, and when I started doing that kind of work, I was like, wow, I now want the elders. Where are my crones? Where are those crones that I can like get some you know, and not the crones, you know, that were depicted in the stories.
Oh
Of
yeah, or the like, yeah, the mean evil
crones,
one.
they are these like amazing women who have like presence and grace. And grace actually was the thing that, like, as you were saying, who am I? Is to come back to that sense of, and have some, all the things we've done and all the things we are and how we label ourselves and whatever, still is to have grace with ourselves, for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't matter what you have done or haven't done or achieved, or, you know,
All
like,
divine. Yeah.
all of that stuff, is to just have grace for like what is, which is deeper.
Yeah.
It is the really who I am. That's the underneath all the who you are. This
Yeah.
is who I am, right?
Yeah, it's true though, you know? Yeah, I mean, it's when I realized that, I mean, I went to this incredible 4-day, it was the first module of it's called the Invisible Leader course. And I cried for 4 days, but I didn't cry. I freaking sobbed my eyes out. But you know, it was held by two women, wait for it, that haven't had children. Powerful. I promise you, Tony, like, you have no idea. I mean, Astrid is probably in her 50s, and Martina, she might be in her 60s. But that's when you know, and this yearning for elder women started last year. It's just like, oh, I'm really like, I do respect the new women that are coming in and that are doing amazing work. But there's something about life experience that you cannot pay for. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah. So I do respect that there are new women, you know, the new generations that are coming through and doing a lot of women's work and all of that. But for me personally, it's just like, no, I need an anchored, experienced elder. And these two women was when I realized, okay, this is where I want to be. I want to sit at the feet of this wisdom and be taught, you know, again, if it has to be whatever that is, you know. And then I realized, hold on a minute, shit, what happens when they go? Fuck, that's us, we're next. So yeah,
when I entered into some of that work, I realized, I was like, where are the crones? Like, where are these women? I don't know where they are. And then I was like, fuck, am I going to have to jump into that role before I'm ready to be in that role?
Yeah.
Because there isn't anywhere. It felt also like it felt like a barren landscape. It really did. But I think it was because the women's movement, for lack of a better word, you know, this emerged, this again, this rise of the feminine, I guess. You know, it was still bubbling underneath and it wasn't kind of as apparent. Whereas now, like, I think there's a lot more of that happening. And so it's a little easier to find.
And remember also, I think, you know, that age, that generation, if we're talking about like the kind of 60, 70, maybe late 50s, 60, 70, you know, if they were doing any sort of, you know, beautiful woman empowering work or, you know, Panchamama work or anything like that, you were, if they were doing it kind of at our age or maybe in their 30s or 40s, they were being silenced. It wasn't a big, you weren't advertising that, you know. So now they are, we want them to come forward, and they are coming forward, but it's also not, it's not something they know to do, because it's also programming. They were also programmed to keep quiet or just to be in the corner over there, you know.
And I suppose also because there wasn't really, you know, social media.
Calling for it. Yeah.
Well, you know, there wasn't the you know, social media is now, you know, now it's there, everyone's using it and everyone's on it in some way, shape or form, right? And so it's now more apparent, it's being brought to the fore, as well as embracing themselves coming out of the woodwork, so to speak. You know, they're not going to get burnt at the stake because there's actually people, you know, like us, their younger generations that are actually like also looking for that and asking for that.
Exactly.
Mm.
And then just back to the point of like, you know, your life in 50 years and reflecting on it and all of that, is that to anchor into, okay, so yes, of course there's elders and we want to learn from them, but you know, you are the next generation for this, and you have the mere fact that we're aware of it means that we need to honor ourselves and acknowledge and accept the wisdom that we do have to share, just by the awareness of knowing that that's the next kind of evolvement here, you know. So just to go back to your point of accepting and yeah, just anchoring into your power, you know, because you've always been such a beautiful, transformational, like insightful, aware, there's another word, it's like you always curious, that's the word, curious. And that's, Tony, fuck man, it's such a beautiful trait to have. You know, if we're not curious about ourselves and about the world around us, honestly, well, then you might as well be a robot, because you're just going to be led down some freaking path, and well, the path they want you to be led down, you know.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing. It's really a beautiful thing. I mean, maybe you need to share how you are curious and how you, like, what does curiosity mean, and how do you like really, I mean, just your reflections today around like embodiment and am I embodying it, and you know, it's like your synchronicity, like that's a beautiful thing. It's a really, really beautiful thing to be able to reflect on self that way. And it's only because you're curious. Yeah. Not only, one of the reasons is because you're curious, you know?
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. This is probably why I'm actually doing this podcast, is exactly because of that, you know, and then to bring that maybe, you know, to other people. I'm not even trying to bring this podcast to people. I'm just.
No, you're just doing it because you're curious.
Exactly. And then I'll just share it with people. If they get some value out of it, yay. Maybe they get something. I mean, that's what I guess I get from podcasts, or the things that I listen to, is exactly that. Right? I get so much sometimes from someone's conversation on very many levels, and exactly makes you reflect on myself. But this is also why I want to talk to people that I feel interested in talking to, that make me go like, yeah, you know, well, how'd you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
What made you decide to do that? How could you do that when, like, I'm sitting here like, oh, I really want to do something, but I'm too scared to do something. Yeah.
Yes. And then you get answers. People's answers are sometimes, they're sometimes random. They're sometimes, it's just, we learn. If you don't ask a question, you'll never learn anything, you know?
The one thing I'm learning, sorry, just to interrupt you, the one thing I am learning is that I think you think you're going to get sometimes a magic answer, and you're not going to get a magic answer. What you might learn by asking questions and finding out from other people's experience is that your experience is your experience, and also timing. Like when you're ready for something to happen, I think. Yeah, you weren't making necessarily a decision. You weren't, as much as you were making a conscious choice, or it was also not something you necessarily sat down and go, well, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And I need to make a decision by next week so that I can like do those things. That's, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? How am I going to make it? Yeah, you're more a case of like offered a situation and you.
And often, yeah. And it'd be interesting once you've done a few podcasts to hear, or to see if there's a thread, you know, like where there's these, where something happens in somebody's life. It's not, I mean, I read again another saying yesterday, which I'd forgotten about, which is just the best saying ever. It's like, relax, nothing is in control. It's like, oh yeah, of course, nothing's in control. It doesn't matter how much we think we are in control. You're not in control. You're just not. Of course, we can put effort into things, and we can energize things, and we can have visions, and we can like work with that. But at the end of the day, it's not in our control, you know? So usually that's back to my point is like, if it'd be interesting to see when you talk to people and when you say, well, how did you do that? Or how did you get to do that? Or it would be interesting to see if the thread is, it just kind of happened. You know, it just became because something else happened, something else, the magnitude of the universe.
Yeah, you basically, and you still had free choice. You could go yes or no. Maybe that's the only thing you have control over in this moment anyway, right? You can say yes, you can also say no.
Yeah.
Lead to a different experience, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good way to end.
Yeah, amazing.
We could sit here for another 4 hours. Yeah. Are you going to say yes or no?
Free will. We'll end on free will. Yeah.
Well, so what you can do is, are you doing things online? Do you do anything online, or is most of your stuff in person?
It's so funny that you asked me that question. You see, now this is where synchronicities. So synchronicities aren't necessarily what you see. They're also what comes up in conversation. Yeah. So often people think it has to be like a physical sign, but for me, it often comes up in interaction as well with people. So I can actually show you my book. I went today for the first time back onto my YouTube channel, because that was done in 2020 when we were in that shit show. And I was like, maybe I should do something on YouTube. And so it was that came up today. The other thing that came up was like doing some sort of like morning meditation, but not every day. I don't know. There's something there that came up. And the other thing online was that it keeps coming up is I want to create an online course of some sort, but not the way everyone else is doing it. Like I'm a little bit against the grain. So just figuring out what that is. Yeah.
Cool. So if people want to follow you on Instagram, I think are you Bianca Volans on?
Yeah, Bianca Volans, just Bianca Volans on Instagram. That's me. I don't have a business page or everything that I am is there. And then I do have a website, which is also biancavolans.com. And
your YouTube channel?
Oh, but there's only 4 little videos there, and they're from 2020. And the one video, Tony, oh my God, I set the camera up so badly that every time, most of the class is my ass in the air. Swear, it's so bad. So bad.
Well, like some of the time, this is the part that I love actually, because that's like because I also want to know that, like, my videos aren't perfect. My Zoom isn't like always set up. Sometimes the earphones cut out. It's never great. I mean, it's horrible sometimes when you want to do like a yoga class and then you can't hear what the instructor's saying and then you can't see what they're doing and they're like, oh, yeah, it drives me mad. But by the same token, like, we're not all Instagram like perfect influencers straight off the bat. Can't all afford to have like someone dealing with our social media and,
Yeah, no. And also sometimes you have to just start. That's my other thing, is like, just start. And if it's something that you really want to continue with and it's growing, then you can grow with it. But like, if you don't start, and starting is never perfect. When's starting perfect? That's the trap, right? Then we never start.
Yeah. Sometimes the story of my life as well. That's what I've been pushing myself to do. I've done about 4 workshops with no one attending, but at least I started the workshop process.
Hey, we have to do it. Like, we have to, that's the part that the universe kind of sometimes goes, well, really, how much do you want to do this? And how much, energy do you have for this? Yeah. And and I suppose sometimes it's also about like just checking in, like, do I really want to do this? Mm-hmm. There's both sides,
For sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thank you for that chat. It was really good.
Oh, welcome, darling.
Actually, like, catch up face to face.
Yeah, anytime though. You can do it anytime. If you feel like a chat,